rock that.
This was exactly what we needed in order to be able to end off the PlayStation 4. I thought we were going to end off this generation of consoles with 4 amazing games. One of them at the start, for me at least, was going to be Persona 5 Royal. I was really excited for Persona 5 Royal because I wanted to see just what changes they would have made from the original game, and I made a review on it, and if you saw it, then you know that I actually really like it. I think it's a way better game than it already really was, in my opinion, and it was great. I absolutely love it. The next was obviously going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I was really anticipating it. I was really wondering what they were going to do that was vastly different, and I was wondering how enjoyable the gameplay was. FF7 Remake ended up being a really great game, and I really like it. I really loved playing through it, and I loved reliving all of the moments and all of the big moments that happened within the story that happened in the original, but now are actually brought into the modern era, and it looks great. It looks absolutely fantastic. I never would have imagined Final Fantasy VII would have ever looked like that before, and now that it has, all I want is more, and apparently the devs are working on it, so that's great. The next was supposed to be Last of Us 2. But the last one is Ghost of Tsushima, and this game was exactly what I needed after The Last of Us Part 2, because I've made no secret that I don't like Last of Us Part 2. I think The Last of Us Part 2 was a huge disappointment. That's not the point of the video, but I'm just explaining my thought process. This is just what I really needed. I really needed something amazing. I really needed something at least that has a foundation, that's solid. You know, that was a solid game to be able to end off this generation of console exclusives. And Ghost of Tsushima was able to, you know, do that for me. It was able to be a super solid game that I absolutely love and really enjoyed from beginning to end. It was incredible. It was an incredible experience. And the thing that makes this really ironic for me as a game is because of the fact that it was really shown off in 2018. I don't remember if it was ever revealed any earlier than that, but it was first really shown off with gameplay in 2018. And then we didn't hear about it for like 2 years, or at least I didn't hear anything about it for like 2 years until the State of Play, and then they showed off more gameplay, and it had a lot more eyes on people, and more people were more willing and more wanting to buy the game. And so far, it's been Sony's best-selling exclusive, even surpassing Last of Us Part 2. Some people are a little upset by that, which I think is silly, but regardless, Ghost of Tsushima is a success so far, and I'm really glad that it's doing well. And I think it's finally time for me to go ahead and get into some of the stuff that I really liked about the game. So, some of the easiest things for me to talk about with Ghost of Tsushima, I feel like, are explaining the music and the story, and that's because the story is very simple, and the music is, you know, simple as well, in the sense that it certainly fits the time period. You know, it's truly authentic to the time period and the type of music that the Japanese people would certainly have listened to back then. And I think it's like the 12th or the 13th century. I'm not really sure what time period this is or what century this is, but it's very early century. It's all the way back to when the Mongols, you know, still existed and were still around and were still invading and pillaging and all that, you know, juxtaposition, etc. But yeah, I think the music's great. I think it fits in every single situation that it's used, and I think it's great. I think it's absolutely lovely to just listen to. I think it's just, you know, whoever was doing the composing for the soundtrack just did a fantastic job. You know, it fits whenever they choose a track for a specific scenario. It always just works itself in, and it always immerses myself into the game even more, and I think it's great. I think it's just a nice listen to. I don't think you really need to specifically look for a certain soundtrack and listen to the soundtrack itself, but if you're playing the game and if you're listening to the soundtrack for yourself, then the music will fit, and you don't really need to, you know, add any other sort of thing into the world itself other than the music that they already are playing. You don't need to have music playing in the background because the music's bad or anything. The music's great. I think the music is absolutely wonderful. I think it's, you know, I think it just fits with whatever is currently going on and whatever scene or whatever you're doing, and I think it's great. The story, like I said, it's simple. It's the Mongol invasion, and the whole point of it is that you're supposed to go and try to fight, uh, Khotun Khan, one of the Khans that had existed for all of the Mongol lifetime, or for however long they existed, and the whole point of it is that you're supposed to go and kill him. That's kind of it, but I feel like the real story lies with the character growth and the journey and the legend of the ghost of Tsushima, verbatim, the title character, Jin Sakai. He's the main character of the game, and he ends up forming a legacy and a legend called the Ghost, or someone else that he knows ends up calling him that. And essentially what ends up happening from there on out is that he continues being called the Ghost by everybody on the island, everyone on the peninsula of Tsushima and his homeland. They keep calling him the Ghost. They keep referring to him as the Ghost. And progressively, as the game continues on further and further, from the start of the game, he starts out as just an honorable samurai who goes through a traumatic war experience of invasion from the Mongols that ends up changing him, and he ends up figuring out an idea that will just have to end up working out in the long run because of just how ruthless and dishonorable the Mongols were. He ends up figuring out an idea that will only work in the situation of, I have to fight in a different way that's unpredictable that will be able to work. Because the thing about Khotun Khan is that in the beginning of the game, he even says it himself, that he took the time to learn, their culture, and within that, there's no reason why he also wouldn't have learned, about their battle strategy, their code of honor and this and that, and etc., etc. Because the whole thing about the Khan and the Khans mostly, whenever they're trying to invade, is that, yeah, they're ruthless people and they'll do whatever it is that they want. They don't really care, but they mostly just want to invade, force you to, quote, make peace, and continue onwards after that. And the whole point of what the Khan in this game is trying to do is that he's trying to get the people of Tsushima, the Jito, who is, Jin's uncle, Lord Shimura, he's trying to get him to, quote, like I said, make peace, so that way he could eventually use the people of Tsushima, use whatever people he can to fight, to go and battle against the Shogun and take over the entirety of Japan. That's his whole plan. That's the whole thing that's trying to, conspire around here. But the real story, I really feel like, is just seeing the progression of Jin's character and the story and this legacy that exists of the Ghost. The Ghost doesn't exist at the beginning point of the game yet, and he doesn't exist for quite a long time, but that seed of his existence always continues to keep coming about whenever you continue to keep playing, and when you see him advance further and further, when he starts, doing assassination techniques that are unbecoming of a samurai, like not fighting eye to eye, not fighting each other as a warrior. Because the thing about the code of honor and fighting as a warrior to samurai is that they're always facing off at each other. They're always looking at each other eye to eye, and they always fight each other as warriors. They don't ever keep their eyes off of each other. What Jin continues to try to do is that he uses stuff like kunai, he uses explosives, he uses, distraction like bells to be able to lure an enemy towards a specific area. He's always fighting from the shadows as the Ghost, and to see him go through this journey of becoming an honorable samurai to the Ghost, someone who fights from the shadows and who, sneaks around and who uses, poison to be able to incapacitate his enemies and turn enemies against each other, and etc. Just all these other techniques. Just see Jin do that, and at first, be disgusted at himself with that, but only justify it as him just saving his home area, his home island, right? His home. It ends up becoming more of his identity. It ends up becoming more of who he is, and he ends up starting becoming more and more like the Ghost. There are a couple points where he ends up feeling a little bit of doubt about himself and whether or not he's doing is wrong, but he still continues on doing this anyways. And I really feel like this is where the true story is. The true story is really where you see him try to progress further and further as the Ghost. That's the real story. The story is seeing someone become an actual folk legend, right? Because there are also tales within this game that are illustrated in really cool cutscenes that you really need to see for yourself, because you'll just, the way that they're done is super cool, and I think the tales within their, themselves are also very entertaining as for a first listen, and even then it's still really cool to listen to. There's a story that really comes to mind where there's a guy and he has a technique that's apparently so fast that he's able to defeat these creatures that were created by actual lightning, right? They were lightning beasts that he was able to attack so fast. He was able to defeat these beings, and he was able to teach this technique to future students. And of course, the legend and the story itself within that tale didn't actually happen. That's not really a story that actually happened, but the technique itself is real. The technique itself is real. It is quite fast for most people to not be able to predict, and you do use it against someone in a fight, and they use it against you as well. And sometimes it's unpredictable. Sometimes it's too quick for some people to not be able to react to, and it's too quick for other opponents that you use it against to be able to react to. So it's able to just be able to get a quick slash in, and sometimes it kills them, sometimes it stuns them, so you're able to get more hits on them. And the attack itself is real, but the story that actually happens isn't entirely true, or at least it's just a very exaggerated one of what people tend to believe in. But that's the thing, they want to believe in something and they want to get inspiration from something, and so whoever created the story, it just created it for the sense of it's giving people inspiration for other stories, and for other folk tales to be created, and for other people to just be inspired to do something for the greater good, for the people of Japan. The same thing essentially happens with Jin when he ends up becoming the ghost, except he's actually real. The stuff that he does is kind of real, but then there are also other points in the game where you're playing other side missions and stuff, and you're talking to other people, and they think a certain way about you. They think you're this like demon person that exists before, or that exists and has been doing these terrible things, and and looks a certain way. But then someone actually sees you, and they see who you actually are, and they're completely bewildered by it. And when I say they're bewildered by it, I mean in the sense that they're just surprised. They're surprised to see that they aren't actually what they had believed that they were. And again, the tale of the ghost and the story of the ghost is just one for people to find hope in. That was the main reason why Yuna, someone who saves your life in the beginning of the game, created the story and created the legend of the ghost, so that way people are able to believe in something. And whenever she even tells a group of people that he is the ghost, she even says herself that I think they liked it, right? And I think it's just something for people to believe in, and that's why Jin continued to keep on going with this folktale legend of the ghost, because at first, even though he didn't really think of himself like that, sooner or later he ends up becoming that truthfully. And just to see him continue on further and further from what he was to who he ends up becoming, and how people see him, perceive him as, and especially his uncle as well, whose true embodiment entails that of honor. It's just something that's really amazing to see, and I feel like even though this isn't really something special, I feel like it's done in a certain way in a certain time period that just was super enjoyable, and I really like seeing it. I really like seeing this story and this tale being told and experience of that one of the player. And I just think it was super cool. I think it was just super fun to just see it for myself, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really, really good, and I want to see something more from this. I hope that maybe we can see something more from this universe. Maybe we can see these other tales being created, or maybe somehow we can see more from Jin's story. I don't know what they could do, but maybe they could do something interesting. I have no idea, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, and just see if they end up creating another game like this or something else. So I guess we'll just have to see it. Like I said, I'm not gonna spoil the end of the game. That's not something that I'm gonna do. Obviously, I'm not gonna spoil too many moments, or if any of all, because I haven't really done that anyways. Not really, at least, because I feel like this is just something that you have to experience for yourself, and every single player is gonna have a different experience with this game, and with the different characters as well. You're gonna connect more with different characters than others. But overall, I think the stories that they do tell, and the ones that do focus more on a different kind of narrative, I think a lot of them are super good, or not even if a lot of them, but all of them. I think a lot of them, or all of them. Sorry. I think all of them tell a unique story for what it's worth, and even if some aren't as long as others, I feel like they're still great to just kind of experience for the first time. And I feel like this is something that you just have to go and play through yourself and really experience for yourself. And I just think it's great. Other than that, I guess if I'm really to talk about anything else, I would say it's the combat and gameplay, and it's exactly what you think it is. I've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but as Jin Sakai, obviously you can play as an honorable samurai, and with that you have different stances: stone, water, moon, and wind. Yes, that's the last one. Not the last one you unlock, but yeah. Um, Obviously, the different stances, act in a specific way. They have different unique moves to themselves, but the most recognizable thing about them is that one stance is specifically effective against another. Like wind is effective against staff users, right, or spear users. Stone is effective against swordsmen. Water is specifically effective against those with shields, and moon is effective against giant brute enemies, and etc. You have a bow. You have two different kinds of bows. One with heavier arrows, which do significantly more damage but have a slower draw time. And then you have regular arrows on the half bow, but and the thing about it is that you do less damage, but you're able to shoot faster. You have 3 difficulties: easy, normal, medium. You can play on different voice tracks. You can either play it in English or you can play it in Japanese, which is fine. You can play the game in black and white, like a traditional Japanese, samurai movie, which is cool. What else? Of course, you have the ghost weapons like smoke bombs, actual bombs, kunai. You can light your sword on fire when you get towards the end of the game. And what these do obviously entail with what they're used for. The smoke bombs are used as a quick distraction. And you can either get away, or in the midst of the smoke, area, you can go ahead and get some stealth kills in really quickly, and that's cool. You can obviously do stealth kills, like I've already said, and you have to get that through a mission. You can have focused hearing, which is essentially like eagle vision from Assassin's Creed. You have a grappling hook, which helps you be able to traverse around in specific areas easier. And you can use that in certain areas of encampments against the Mongols, which is cool. I feel like there's not enough areas where you're able to do that, or at least it just didn't look like they were there. But whenever I was using them, and whenever an area did have them, it was super cool to just swing around and not be noticed. Like an actual ninja, it was super cool. I feel like there's a couple other things that I'm missing out. I feel like just for some reason I'm missing something. There's the ghost stance as well, which makes the entire screen black and white. Obviously Jin does a different kind of stance than normal, but everybody just looks at you. They're kind of scared at you for like a second, and then you could just run towards them and instantly kill them in one slash, and that's super cool. There's obviously the standoff as well, which essentially does the same thing, but Jin has his sword holstered, not holstered, but like sheathed away, and the thing about it is that you have to wait and predict for your enemy to attack, and then you slash at them and then you instantly kill them. And then with further unlocks, you can progress this further towards doing it against 2 enemies, and then the 3 enemies, and then with a specific armor piece you can do it against 2 more extra enemies, and you get a trophy for being able to do that. And I think that's it never got old. It was always super cool. Focus more on their feet, that's all I'll say. Focus on their feet and whether or not they're moving forward towards you, because the thing about it is that they'll try to fake you out. So focus on their feet, because it's easier to pay attention to that most of the time, and you'll be able to really tell if they're coming after you or not. So there's just a quick tip that I never really understood and never really pointed out in my first playthrough, because I just never really paid attention to it, but then I watched the video and it made a lot more sense. There's a couple other things that I feel like I'm neglecting to mention, but the overall game was just an incredible experience. It was a great experience. I just repeated myself. It was a great experience to have. It was a lot of fun. Everything was just super cool. I am thoroughly impressed. Everything was just thoroughly impressive. The game visually is great. The story and the characters were all great. The combat and the gameplay was incredible. This was just a solid way to be able to end out this generation. This generation had one of some great exclusives coming from Sony, and this is just another great exclusive game coming from Sony, and coming from Sucker Punch especially, who has made other games that are also really good. And with this one, I was thoroughly impressed. I was thoroughly impressed with what was given to me to be able to play and to be able to experience for myself. It was great. I only hope to see more coming from either this world or from this company, or just future, great experiences of exclusives that come when we get the PlayStation 5. I am only expecting just greater things coming from both Sucker Punch and from Sony whenever the PlayStation 5 comes out. It's going to be great, and I'm really excited. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and try to wrap up the video now. If you did enjoy it for whatever reason, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to subscribe for more videos just like this. I feel like I'm really missing out on a couple other things, but I feel like I don't really need to go as deep into this video as into the game as much as I should, because there's not really much for me to really say that I already have. This game was great. Go play it, go buy it, go support it, because it's wonderful. It's an incredible experience, and I really loved it. So, yeah, I'll see you guys next one. I'm out. Peace.